Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we're on Canto 1, Chapter 19, the appearance of Shukadeva Goswami. And we're on text 38, is that on the board? 38? Is that... Huh? What have you got on the board? 39. I can't see because I haven't got my glasses. Okay, so 38 is done, yeah? And 39. Okay. Right, 39. Nūnaṁ bhagavata brahman gṛheṣu gṛha-medhinām na lakṣyate avasthānam api go-dohanaṁ kvacit nūnaṁ bhagavato brahman gṛheṣu gṛha-medhinām na lakṣyate avasthānam api go-dohanam kvacit nūnaṁ bhagavatat brahman gṛheṣu gṛha-medhinām na lakṣyate avasthānam api go-dohanam kvacit. Ladies. nūnaṁ, because bhagavato, of you who are powerful, brahman, O brahmana, gṛheṣu, in the houses, gṛha-medhinām, of the householders, na, not, lakṣyate, are seen, he, exactly, avasthānam, staying in, api, even, go-dohanaṁ, milking the cow, kvacit, rarely. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. O powerful Brahmana, it is said that you hardly stay in the houses of men long enough to milk a cow. Purport. Saints and sages in the renounced order of life go to the houses of the householders at the time they milk the cows early in the morning and ask for some quantity of milk for subsistence. A pound of milk fresh from the milk bag of a cow is sufficient to feed an adult with all the vitamin values, and therefore saints and sages live only on milk. Even the poorest of the householders keep at least 10 cows, each delivering 12 to 20 quarts of milk, and therefore no one hesitates to spare a few pounds of milk for the mendicants. It is the duty of householders to maintain the saints and sages like children. So a saint like Sukadeva Goswami would hardly stay at the house of a householder for more than 5 minutes in the morning. In other words, such saints are very rarely seen in the houses of householders. And Maharaj Pariksit therefore prayed to him to instruct him as soon as possible. The householders also should be intelligent enough to get some transcendental information from the visiting sages. The householders should not foolishly ask a saint to deliver what is available in the market. That should be the reciprocal relationship between the saints and the householders. O powerful Brahmana, it is said that you hardly stay in the houses of men long enough to milk a cow. So we should be fortunate enough that we get that opportunity to get fresh milk from a cow that's just been milked. Nowadays, very difficult to get any kind of milk, what to speak about that you can get within 5 minutes. But let me just... Milk is such a valuable foodstuffs, but like everything else now in Kali Yuga, the whole process has been spoiled. I think the only time I went out on the Braj Mandal Parikrama, this was in 1998, I think. In the early morning, I was very happy that on our hike, our parikrama, there were 1 or 2 villages that we stayed at. We arrived just in time for when they were milking the cows. So the householders were very happy, because they were very happy to see a bunch of foreigners going on the parikrama. These are in the back villages of Vrindavan. But they were very happy to give, whatever we wanted. They had some fresh roti and they had fresh milk. And so we spent half an hour, we sat down, we had some nice breakfast, and then went on our way. So they didn't begrudge having to, here's another sadhu, so-called, give him something. No, they're quite the opposite. They were very happy that we had come to their house, and we didn't have to request it even, but they came out with some clay cups of milk, and some rotis that they were making it as we were sitting there. So this is Vedic culture. You can't hear it, okay. Okay. But this is Vedic culture. It's based on charity. Of course, the natural inclination of human beings, this gṛha ashram, out of the 4 ashrams, gṛha ashram is the important one because it supplies the sustenance for all the other members of the other ashrams. So especially the sadhus, the saints and sages, they don't require very much, and the householders don't begrudge giving them some sustenance. Yeah, they rather take it as an honor. I was with Srila Prabhupada one time in Vrindavan. This was in 1976. And we went out for the Prabhupada's morning walk. So just off the road, there's some fields. So Prabhupada decided to take a walk in the field. There's about 4 or 5 of us. So as we began to walk in the field, the farmer, the owner of the land, he saw us. So he came over. So we stopped. The farmer came up, and immediately he got down. He offered his obeisances and pranams to Srila Prabhupada and his foreign disciples. And he told Srila Prabhupada that we're very fortunate that you've blessed our land by coming on it, walking on it, leaving your footprints on it. When we got back, Prabhupada made a point about in his class about that's real culture. He said if we'd have been in the West, probably they would have come out with some gun, all right, get off of my land. So the Vedic culture is a lot different. And one of the key things is that for householders, they should learn the art of giving in charity. It's very important because that supplies, the necessary vitamins and foodstuffs that one has or requires as a human being. And once you've gotten some sustenance, then you go on your way. The sadhu may call it different houses, or he may not. Again, another time we were in Bhubaneswar, and in the mid-morning, I heard somebody playing kartals. So I went out to the entranceway, and there was one sadhu. I don't know whether he was an actual sadhu, but he looked like one. And he played his kartals, and that was the signal, I'm here, can you give me a chapati? So I got one from the kitchen, gave him the chapati, and immediately he was on his way. So he liked that we supplied, and he didn't have to ask. Not that, is that all you're giving? That's not culture. Real culture means that everybody gets a chance to get proper sustenance, and then whatever time they have, they can use for looking after the brahmacharis, the vanaprasthas, the sannyasis, make sure that they're well looked after. And the grihastas, by giving in charity, that's become a grihasta rather than a gṛha-medhi. Gṛha-medhi, Prabhupada explains, is based on greed and lust. I've got my place, whatever I've got, you've got something. I want to have something more than you. Yeah, we can see this in action all the time. Yeah, Kali Yuga, the so-called human beings, they're not human beings. They have no sense of charity, they have no sense of generosity. Rather, if they see somebody that's got more land than they have, or more wealth than they have, they immediately want to somehow or another snatch it away and keep it for themselves. We've seen now just in Europe that same business is going on. Not satisfied that they've got so much land, you could feed hundreds of thousands of people more. No, they want to take, they want what they've got, and they want to take what anybody else has got. And if you don't give it to them, then immediately throw bombs, rockets, missiles, and blow them off the face of the map. So that's gṛha-medhi. Very envious, low-life people. They're not human beings actually, but they're very expert in causing a disturbance and cheating everybody. So this is not the kind of culture. It's not culture actually. Culture means to cultivate. So if you culture, and that word cultivate actually is also used for describing people who have fields and they grow crops. They're cultivators. So by cultivating the land in the proper way, then everybody gets nourished. Everybody's looked after. Yeah, and not just for the body, but the mind and the intellect and the soul itself should be cultivated. That's consciousness. When you cultivate Krishna consciousness, means it grows. It flourishes. So this is cultivation, and this is something we often talk about the varnashram system. So varnashram means this cultivation. In all the different varnas and ashrams, there's certain standards of living, there's a certain mentality, a certain cultivation of the consciousness that brings us to a point where we can actually conquer death. That's what we've been reading here in the Bhagavatam. What's the duty of a man at the time of his passing? Everybody's going to die at some point. So what do we do at that point? So of course we don't know when that point's going to come, although a good astrologer might be able to give some hints. But we don't really know when that time will come, when we have to leave this body and go someplace else. So with the little time that we've got, we have to learn how to utilize that in the proper way. It's a great advantage for the soul to come to the human form of life. If we don't come to the human form of activity, then all of our life is wasted. We have to somehow or another figure out what the benefit is from being in this human form, and then cultivate that, make it flourish, so that we get beyond the modes of material nature, ignorance, passion and goodness, and we come to the transcendental platform. That's the whole sum and substance of these human forms. Somehow or another conquer death. Because ordinary people, they don't know that death can be conquered, even if they accept, yes, death is coming, but they don't know what to do to thwart that onslaught of death. They have no idea how to properly live their life to a maximum benefit. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada said we should show people how to live according to the proper standards of varnashram, by showing the example at least, even if we can't do every aspect, but we should at least show some example of what it means to be a human being. We have to demonstrate the best way possible what is the benefit of having this human form. So Prabhupada wanted us to do that. In 76, December, Prabhupada went to Hyderabad. There was a family there, the Badrukas, so they gave 560 acres of land to ISKCON. And Prabhupada went there for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, which is longer than he usually spent. If he was on tour, he would usually have about 5 or 6 days where he would stay in any one particular place. But when he when we came to Hyderabad, Prabhupada was very keen to use that land for cultivation, varnashram, dharma. So he had a plan. Actually, just when we were setting off, we were going to go from Vrindavan to Delhi and then fly down to Hyderabad and then go out to the farm. So as we were sitting in the car in Vrindavan, Prabhupada got in, myself and Jagadish Prabhu, he was Prabhupada's secretary. We were sitting in the car. Prabhupada got in, and then he made this comment. He said, now we're going to start a new phase of this movement. He used that expression, a new phase of this movement. Then he didn't say anything more. So I'm thinking, what is it? So then Prabhupada said, varnashram. Just that one word, varnashram. So we went down there, we spent a couple of weeks there. It was very nice. And every day Prabhupada was going out for his morning walk across the fields. And he was asking about the irrigation, planting of crops, they had a goshala there. So like that, every day Prabhupada would go to a different area. And he noted that all the people that lived in that area were cultivators. They were farmers. And their whole business is growing crops. So, of course, they take the excess to the market and in this way live simple but healthy lives. But the missing thing, of course, was Krishna consciousness. Because many of them actually down there, they worship Balaji, so in Tirupati. But even those that don't, they're kind of, it's part of a jati dharma. It's part of the varnashram system of living. Automatically, without trying, you're inclined towards the mode of goodness. That's varnashram. And then from the mode of goodness, you can come to the transcendental platform if you have a good instructor or teacher who can point out what's to be done and what is not to be done. So Prabhupada's idea was that we have every evening a pandal. Like they erected a small pandal. Hansadutta was there, Tejas was there. So Prabhupada and Mahamsa was in charge. So Prabhupada put the three of them as co-directors, and he told them, now you develop this varnashram system on the land here. So the idea was that we would go out in the daytime, our devotees, and they'd go through the different villages. They'd do kirtan to attract the local people, and then they would invite them to come back to our land, and we had a small pandal there, and in the evening people would come, a couple of hundred people to start with, and all the children, they would dance and chant along with the devotees. Then Tejas, he knew Telugu actually, and Hindi and quite a few other languages, so he would give a small he would give a short talk, just some basics about Krishna consciousness. And then after that, then we gave them some prasadam. So that was it, that was the program. Prabhupada said that if they come, they get attracted, and they start coming, then gradually they'll want to, they'll learn some of the philosophy, and they'll want to become part of the Krishna consciousness movement. So in that way then, by gradual cultivation, then they would become attracted to spiritual life. And then the same business that they're already doing for sustenance, growing crops, they continue to do that. They would, Prabhupada's plan was that in the early morning, then, well, first of all, he wanted to set up, like in England we call them hamlets, small villages. So like 10 or 12 houses in small patches around different areas of the land. So the idea was that they would get up early in the morning, they would attend the Mangalarati, then after that they would have some kirtan, and then they would go out when it was daylight, and they go out into the fields and do their cultivation. Then at the end of the day, they'd come back, cleanse themselves, come to the evening arati, more kirtan, a little pravachan, and that was it. That was his whole program, Varnashram system simplified for Kali Yuga. Not complex, very simple. But farmers, so utilize their skills. Prabhupada said they can come and live on our land. We'll give them an acre or 2 acres of land for their cultivation. They can keep a few cows, and then the rest of the time is for your spiritual development. So it was a nice program, but unfortunately we never actually the program kind of dried up due to our men not being able to cooperate properly together. So as a result of that, after Prabhupada left there after a couple of weeks, he left the program in the hands of the leaders, and then within I think about 3 or 4 weeks the whole thing was finished. They were not able even to make nice prasadam. It became a bit of it was a shambles, but at that point Prabhupada himself was so ill that he couldn't step in and continue to guide it personally. He was relying on his disciples. You either do it, or what can I say? I can tell you what to do, but if you don't do it, then what's the use? So that was unfortunately our first attempt at Varnashram. It wasn't very successful, but actually it can be done. But I've seen, on that last tour in 1976, Prabhupada went around the world for the last time. So he went to places like, we went to Gitanagari, that was one of the, we went to New Vrindavan, there's several places. We went to New Mayapur. No, I'm just saying where Prabhupada went in 1976. Yeah, there was Gitanagari and New Vrindavan. In Europe, we went to Chateau d'Ublay, the New Mayapur. So each place Prabhupada went, he spoke very strongly about Varnashram and setting up, a proper system for people to live simply but nicely, live a healthy life. And wherever he went, he would tell people, we were just in France, or we were just in England, or we were just in America, we have these farming communities. So Prabhupada was making a lot of propaganda about having these farming communities, and he was very happy to see our devotees taking it seriously. It's like in Gitanagari. At that time it was called the Philadelphia Farm, but, and then it became Gitanagari. But Prabhupada, when he arrived, he went there for one day. We stayed overnight and then came back to New York the next day. So after we arrived and he'd had a lunch, then we went on a tour of the farm. So Paramananda Prabhu, he was in charge there, and they had these brown Swiss cows, particular breed, and he had the pedigrees for these cows that he bought with the land. The pedigrees went back 200 years, right to the very first settlers in America. So they had these cows, and they kept breeding them, and nearly 200 years later they were still there. And they were, I mean, beautiful animals and huge. If you stood next to them, they were higher than you. And they had milk bags, giant milk bags, almost trailing on the ground. But they gave, I mean, like Prabhupada's mentioning here about 10 pounds or 20 pounds of milk. So these cows were giving huge amounts of milk every day. Prabhupada was so happy to see that. And as we went through the cow shed, he saw the other residents, cats, dogs, they're also living there. And the cats especially, they like milk. So they were going underneath the cows and sucking or catching the drops of milk that had come from the last milking. And they would, and the cat and the dogs, they were simply doing what dogs do. We all know what they do. They just lay on the ground and go to sleep. But they were there living very peacefully. So Prabhupada gave a class at the end of his tour, and he mentioned that again specifically, how by Krishna consciousness you become very peaceful and happy. Even the dogs and cats live together nicely, no fighting. So he said that's Krishna consciousness. You live together, you help each other, you have dependents that you look after, you utilize your skills for human life, the whole purpose of human life, which is to come to this point that, all right, this is not the end of it, just having a nice place to live and, just a peaceful existence. Because even if you get that peaceful existence, if you don't utilize it, then what's the use of it? Yeah, you're going to die at some point. So living naturally, living peacefully is the basis then for, it's like the springboard from material life to spiritual life. Spiritual life, all right, we've got enough materially, we don't need very much anything more. But now what is the rest of our life for? Why are we here? Where are we going? Where did we come from? These are the questions that have to be asked, as Sukadeva and Pariksit Maharaj is sharing. What is the duty of a man when he has to die at the time of death? What do we do? Do we just take birth as animals and then die as animals, not knowing anything about what we are, what the value of consciousness is, human consciousness, or is it meant for something else? So that's our good fortune that Prabhupada, it depends on how you count the time, but you can say that Prabhupada only stayed for 5 minutes. In fact, sometimes when he was telling people about the, Varnashram system and everything, he would very happily tell them that we've got, this land, we've got this opportunity in our human form. So he, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, he was very happy that people were taking up enacting the advice that he gave them. And that was, his life was like Sukadeva Goswami. You come in, spend 5 minutes, and away you go. And in that 5 minutes, you get the people living there become educated as to what real human life is for. So Prabhupada, you could say, in his 11 years that we knew him, at least actively spreading Krishna consciousness, that's like, compared to the time since Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, 500 years, it's like 5 minutes. So Prabhupada was like Sukadeva Goswami, traveling around telling people about Krishna consciousness. And people were very happy. They could see that Prabhupada was living the life, as they say, not cheating anybody by bogus yoga systems and Mayavadi guru philosophies and all this. No, he was giving us the nectar, the milk, pure milk of Krishna consciousness. And by absorbing that, by living in proper climate, then very easily you can cross over the ocean of birth and death. So that's our business, is that we want to create a climate in human life where people can live happily, peacefully, and have enough time to make their human lives successful. So I'm gonna stop at this point. Is there anybody that's got any questions or comments? Mishra Bhagavan, Prabhu.
Is Mayapur a good place to have it fulfill this Varnashram Dharma ambition or Srila Prabhupada's?
I don't know how many hundreds of times people have asked that question. The land is there, yes, if you know how to utilize it properly. Our challenge with Mayapur is that Prabhupada wanted to have something like the Varnashram system, where people could live peacefully and naturally and have cows and crops and whatever. But at the same time, he also he wanted 50,000 people to live here. So when I heard him say that, it was in a newspaper article also, that we were planning a city for 50,000 people. So I don't know whether they're on another dimension or we've got some land. And Prabhupada made those comments. He was at that time trying to get the government to acquire 300 acres. Now we've got 700, I think, from the recent gifts from the government. So there's plenty of land. Prabhupada actually was talking about, 50,000 people living. So I don't know exactly how we'll do that, but it's something. We have to at least have some areas in Mayapur where we have, these cultivators, where gṛhesthas can live simply and naturally and get what nourishment they need, both for their bodies and their minds. That nourishment that you feel very satisfied. So whether we can do that here in Mayapur, let's see. Well, maybe we won't. I'm definitely not going to be around long enough to see that. But there's so many younger men and girls that are coming along. So we want to encourage them to, stay here, make Mayapur their residence. That's the key thing. But not by building slums like they are in Calcutta. Yeah, that kind of, that's not, productive. Just whack up some shoddy buildings and try and make some money. Yeah. So that's not our business. But to help each other develop these Varnashram system, live nicely, just like our Srimati Mataji. I don't know if she's still got them, but she had some bullocks. She's a lady and not always very healthy, but she's very determined. So she's got her bullocks. She comes through the villages with. She's living in a hut with straw roof on and everything. So that's nice. If we can live like that and be peaceful, then what more do we want? So I would say that yes, because Prabhupada asked us to do a Varnashram system here in Mayapur, that eventually we will do it. But at the moment, there's not much that's been manifest. There are one or two devotees that are trying to take it seriously, but I don't see too much going on personally. But I'm not criticizing, because I'm part of the same system. We have to do what we can. But we should have enough faith in Srila Prabhupada that we should be able to at least put a few thousand people on the land and live according to the standards of varnashram system. So yes and no. Yes, Siki Mahiti.
Hare Krishna. I like the point that you made about the principle, ultimately the principle of varnashram, which is really caring about others, which is centered around charity.
Which is what?
The principle of caring.
Oh, caring, yes.
And because you mentioned about the lust and the greed, which is the gṛha-medhinām.
Yeah.
And the other opposite side of that is being charitable and in many ways. So in one sense you could say when that principle is more prevalent, then people can probably live like that. Maybe they're not in the woods or living in a hut, but that principle of varnashram can still be cultivated where we are, in a sense. So I was just going to bring out that point there.
Yeah, Prabhupada specifically told us that ISKCON should create the varnashram system, at least to show the example to others. Yeah, we were here February 14th, 1977. We were here in the Lotus building. Prabhupada talked with us for about an hour or so about this, that now it was the time to have this varnashram system up and running. And the ISKCON should be setting the example so that when ordinary people come, they can see, oh, they're living very nicely, they're living very peacefully together, no fighting. That's what he wanted. So it can be done.
Yeah, but we see within our own society, it's mostly fighting, it seems like.
Huh?
It's mostly fighting. We want this principle, no, we shouldn't have this, and everybody, so much conflict. Just within our own society.
I'm sorry,
I said within our own society, there seems to be so much conflict, not so much peace, because of differences of opinion about culture and how to be Krishna conscious.
Well, at least be peaceful. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for wonderful class, Prabhuji. Varnashram Dharma, how much you can inculcate in Mayapur, but I think it is the basic principle what Srila Prabhupada wants us to do is people would visit Mayapur and get a taste for implementing Varnashrama Dharma at their own locations. So this is only like a sample, and the real execution of Varnashram Dharma and cow protection and other farming, it should be done in the area of our respective work among the masses.
Yeah, it's a societal structure where each limb supports the others. When Lord Ram returned from Lanka and he came back to Ayodhya, he stopped at the gate. He wouldn't go in. He said, I want to make sure that, he said, I will not enter Ayodhya unless every single person is following the Varnashram system. He said, if there's even one person that's not following, I'm going. So that's it's very important to have at least some form, because we're not living in Treta Yuga now. We're living in Kali Yuga. So as with everything, the systems have been simplified, just like previously, doing prana, prana, or doing deity worship. These are the systems for religious advancement according to the ages, Sattvagun and with the Kali Yuga, everything's been simplified. Just chant Hare Krishna, chant the names of God. That's it. That's as much as you need to do. If you can do that successfully, then your human life is complete. So we might not be able to do every aspect of Varnashram. That will be very difficult, I think. But the core of it, the essence of it, is what Prabhupada told us that his plan when he first went to America was that these people are malicious, yavanas, they don't know anything. So you're not going to capture them by philosophy. But he said, my program right from the very beginning, he was telling Kirtananda this when we were on the way to New Vrindavan. He said, my program right from the very beginning, and you know this, was that, all right, let them chant, dance, take prasadam, and go home. No philosophy. Then, he said, after some time, when the heart becomes cleansed, by chanting and taking prasadam, then, he said, you can give them a little understanding, some philosophy. So that was a simple program. But it's been tremendously successful so far. So, we want it, but we shouldn't try to overdo it. Take it, whereas Prabhupada intended with the Hyderabad farm. Simple thing. Let the people come, small groups, do a little deity worship in the morning, go out and grow the crops, come back, do some Krishna Katha. That's all you need. No need to make it very complicated.
Hare Krishna Prabhu here. Just a small piece of information. His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami, he's setting up Varnashram College adjacent to the Rasamrita Kunj property. He's also going to settle down there, and he's been giving classes at his residence. Right now he's staying in Rasamrita Kunj, and every day he's speaking on Varnashram.
Yeah, we do have some places, like in Hungary. I'm told that I have never been there, my wife's been there, but I was told that they grow about 80% of their own food on the land. So that's something, production. Because there's a kind of like a symbiotic relationship with the land and the cows and the human beings. And if you do the yajna, do the proper yajna, then you get rainfall. When rain comes, then it moistures the land. The crops grow very easily. And as Prabhupada mentions, that the demigods, they're the interceders, is that the word? Anyway, they act as an intercession between God and man. And the cow and the bull are used for growing the necessities that you need for proper life. So in that way, then we don't need much more. There's that relationship. It's not, having cows is not just a question of having a few cows as pets. They have to be utilized in the fields. The bulls plow the fields, and then from that, then the rain comes. From the rain you get your crops. Grow your crops, you get your food in different varieties, and it's all in this cycle of life. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. There's different activities that are performed, but it keeps that cycle of life productive. That's what Varnashram is. It's produce. You need some produce for your body. You need some produce for your mind. You need some produce for your intellect. If that's all in place, and everybody becomes happy, the demigods are happy, Krishna's happy, and we also become very happy. Any other questions?
Just wanted to add a small comment. Maharaj says that the principle of caring for each other among devotees and living peacefully and in harmony will come up with the setup of Varnashram. It's more easy to do this than just by ourselves. and Maharaj is going to form a club of like-minded devotees who are interested to set up the varnashram system. So he is asking for volunteers and people who are enthusiastic to meet with him. Just wanted to pass on.
I couldn't actually hear very much.
I'm speaking about His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've never been to his place, but I heard it's quite nice. Are you living there, or you visited, or what?
I live at Rasamrita Kunj, and he's setting up a Varnashrama college adjacent to Rasamrita Kunj, and he's giving classes every morning 6 a.m. at his place. And he's interested to form a club of like-minded devotees who are interested to set up, promote Varnashram.
Right.
Yeah, so just wanted to give this information.
Where is it exactly?
It's by Jalangi River. Have you been to Jalangi Dam or Rasamrita Kunj?
You mean just here?
Just here.
Rasamrita Kunj?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing something there?
Yeah, he's setting up a Varnashrama college for education, how to set up Varnashram, and there will be faculty teaching the different aspects of Varnashram. And Maharaj is building a small kutir for himself over there. He's going to live there.
Very good. Very nice. Last one, Mishra.
To have a Varnashram community or society, does it have to be out in the country in a farm, or can it take place in our
Well,
modern
it's pretty
cities?
difficult to grow crops in a building. You got to have. But I see that actually there's one Bridge Basi. He's been working with my wife for about 40 years now, making clothing for deities. So I went to visit his house one time, and he's living there with his family. One of the main family members is the cow. And the cows are actually, they had 2 or 3 cows inside the house, which I thought was kind of far out. But it's very nice, and they treat them just like, their brothers or fathers, or, they get milk from them every day. They look after the cows very nicely. They're very happy. And just being in a place where the cow is very, I don't know, somehow or another it surcharges the atmosphere. The smell of the urine and stool of the cow is very invigorating. Yeah. Not that if you have a pet dog, it's in the West, they don't have pet cows, they have pet dogs. Yeah, and if the dog passes stool in your house, it'll be so foul you won't be able to stay there. So that's the opposite. In Vrindavan they have pet cows. And every day the ladies come, they get that mix, water and urine and stool of the cow. They mix it together. They rub the walls with it. They clean the courtyard and everything. You've seen actually when we go out on the parikrama, you can see the houses of the Hindus because it's their tradition. They're usually very neat and clean and freshly swept every day, whereas the rest were not necessarily Hindus. The houses are quite not nice, at least to my eye. They're not kept up very well, and not very healthy. But if you've got a cow or a few cows, Prabhupada says here, if everybody has 10 cows, then from that you can get everything you need. We had a headmaster in the early days of our Gurukul in Vrindavan, and he used to live on 1 bowl of milk. That was it. Every day you get a bowl of milk, fresh milk. You drink that, and he was happy for the rest of the day, and fit and healthy. Okay, we're going to finish at this point. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.